Hi, I'm James Lioncourts, and welcome to the channel. Here, we share powerful stories from real people who faced heartbreak, failure, or loss, and still managed to rise again. If you believe in emotional healing, second chances, and life lessons that stay with you, this is your place. So hit that subscribe button. Share this story with someone who needs hope. And let's dive in, because what happened to Olivia is something no mother ever expects. It started with a simple box in the mail. Olivia Whitmore had just finished sweeping her tiny front porch when she noticed it. A square envelope resting by the door, elegant and heavy. The kind that whispers, "This is important." She wasn't expecting anything. No birthday, no holiday. Just another quiet morning. She smiled. Maybe it's from the garden club, she said to herself. She opened it, and her smile faded. Slowly, painfully. It was a wedding invitation, addressed to Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. No mention of her name. No, Olivia Whitmore. No mother of the groom. Just ... She stood still. The breeze moved, but she didn't. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, she whispered. But I'm his mother. She sat down, the invitation trembling in her hand. Her heart tried to act calm. Her stomach. Not so much. It had been years since her son Thomas moved out. He was always kind, but distant. And Rachel, his fiancée, well, let's just say she preferred things her way. Olivia had expected distance, but not erasure. That night, she didn't sleep. Instead, she stared at that envelope like it was a puzzle, or a slap. Who made this decision? Thomas? Rachel? Her in-laws? Or had she just become invisible? The next morning, she looked at her reflection in the mirror. The same soft eyes, the same silver hair, the same woman who raised a boy through storms and sleepless nights. And now, not even a line on an envelope. But this isn't a story about feeling sorry. Oh no, this is a story about rising up with quiet strength and a little sparkle. Because Olivia was about to do something no one expected. ***. Before Olivia could make sense of that cold invitation, she needed to look back, not to blame, but to understand. Because relationships don't break overnight. They fade in quiet moments, in silence that grows louder with time. Thomas used to call every Sunday. Just short check-ins, nothing grand. But to Olivia, they were everything. She'd make tea, sit by the window, and smile at the sound of his voice. Even if all he said was, "Hey, Mom, I'm good." And one Sunday, he didn't call. Then another. And another. When she finally called him, Rachel answered. "Oh, he's busy. I'll let him know you called." But he never did. Olivia told herself it was just a phase. Young men get busy. Weddings are stressful. She didn't want to be that mom, the one who clings, nags, makes drama. But deep down, she felt it. He was slipping away, and she had no idea how to hold on without smothering him. One day, she sent him a photo of an old family recipe. The apple pie he used to love. No response. Another day, she texted, "Thinking of you. Hope you're well." Nothing. So she stopped trying. Not out of anger, but to protect her heart. That's when the silence truly began. Not just from him, but inside her, too. She started talking less at church. Stopped going to the community dinners. Even her closest friend, Loretta, noticed. "You look like a woman carrying something too heavy," Loretta said one morning. And Olivia simply replied, "I think I've been left behind." But no one truly knew what Olivia was feeling. Because she never spoke of it. Mothers don't complain, right? They just keep going until something snaps. Or something arrives, like a wedding invitation that doesn't say her name. ***, the first time Olivia met Rachel. It was spring. Not the kind with flowers blooming and soft air dancing through the trees, but that strange kind of spring where everything looks beautiful and still feels cold. Thomas had invited her to brunch. Just something casual, he said. I want you to meet someone. Olivia had dressed carefully that day. Nothing fancy, just a soft peach blouse with mother-of-pearl buttons in her favorite beige cardigan. She even baked lemon scones. From scratch. Because when a mother meets the one, she hopes to be part of the new chapter. Not erased from the last. Rachel arrived late. She walked in wearing designer sunglasses, indoors, and greeted Olivia with a polished smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Oh, wow. Lemon scones. So vintage. Then she pulled out her phone and took a picture. No, thank you. No, how lovely. Thomas looked nervous. Olivia noticed. He kept glancing between the two women, like he was trying to keep the peace before a war even started. During the meal, Rachel did most of the talking. She talked about her career, her parents, her Pilates instructor. She mentioned a wedding she attended at a vineyard in California. Then, almost casually, she said, when we get married, I want something elegant and modern, nothing too traditional. Her eyes flicked toward Olivia's vintage brooch. That was the moment. Right there. Olivia smiled politely. But inside, something wilted. She realized Rachel didn't want a mother-in-law. She wanted an accessory, one she could tuck away and pull out for photo ops if needed. Later that evening, Thomas called and sighed, thanks for being so kind. Rachel can be intense, but she's amazing. She just has high standards, you know? Olivia had nodded quietly, because what else could she say? She didn't want to start her son's engagement with friction. She didn't want to be the obstacle, but she noticed the shift. Over the months, the calls became shorter, the invitations fewer. Holidays became tight this year, and even the smallest traditions, like birthday brunches or Sunday soup, vanished. Rachel never asked about Olivia's life, never visited her home, never said, we'd love to have you join us. She simply took up space. And Thomas let her. Olivia didn't blame Rachel. Not entirely. She blamed the silence, the kind that grows between people when love becomes polite instead of warm. She blamed herself too, for stepping back when maybe she should have stepped in. And yet, a small part of her had always hoped that wedding day would bring her back in, that Rachel would look at her one morning and say, you've raised him well. I'm glad you're part of this. Instead, she received a wedding invitation, addressed to Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. It wasn't just about a name missing. It was about a place stolen, a chair that should have had her name, a hug that never came. But Olivia wasn't angry. No, her pain was deeper than that. It was the quiet grief of someone who had been slowly erased, with elegance and a smile. Asterisk, but there was something Olivia hadn't told anyone. A conversation she overheard, one that would change how she saw everything about the wedding. And Rachel, asterisk, it's strange how something as simple as paper and ink can cut deeper than words ever could. That invitation didn't just leave out Olivia's name. It left out her story. It left out the woman who held Thomas in her arms when he had night terrors, the one who skipped dinners just to buy him textbooks, the one who stayed strong through widowhood so her son wouldn't feel fatherless. And now, she was just nobody, not even +1, just not there. Olivia placed the invitation on her kitchen table and stared at it for hours. She wasn't crying. She didn't scream. There was no dramatic movie scene. Just silence. And a feeling she couldn't quite name. It wasn't rage, not even heartbreak. It was emptiness. Like someone had opened a drawer in her chest and quietly taken something. that could never be replaced. The next day, at the grocery store, she ran into Mrs. Callahan, a sweet, nosy neighbor who meant well. "Most of the time? Did you get your invitation too?" she chirped. "Everyone's talking about Thomas's big day. I hear it's going to be very upscale. Vineyard wedding, can you believe it?" Olivia smiled gently. "Oh, yes, I got it." She didn't mention the missing name. She didn't correct anything. She just pushed her cart forward, slowly, quietly, carrying more than groceries. That night, she sat by the window with a cup of cold tea and asked herself the hardest question. Was I ever really part of his world? Or was I just the background character in his story? She thought about the baby boy who used to call her Mama in the middle of the night. The teenager who wrote her Mother's Day cards in big crooked letters. The young man who promised he'd always visit every Thanksgiving. Where did he go? Or had she gone somewhere without realizing it? That evening, Olivia pulled out a box of old photos. There he was, Thomas at 5, with frosting on his nose. Thomas at 12, hugging their old dog, Jasper. Thomas in his high school cap and gown, holding her hand tightly. Every photo had a piece of her heart in it. Now, he couldn't even print her name on an envelope. She wanted to be bigger than the pain. She wanted to tell herself it didn't matter. But it did. It mattered deeply. Because no mother wants to disappear from her own child's life. Not like this. Not without a word. Asterisk, asterisk, but Olivia wasn't the type to let pain fester in the dark. She was about to make a decision, one that would surprise everyone, even herself. Olivia had always been the quiet type, not the kind to raise her voice or slam doors. She believed in handwritten notes, gentle words, and long walks to clear her mind. But even quiet women have limits. And that invitation, that little piece of paper that erased her, had crossed hers. She didn't want revenge. She wasn't about to make a dramatic scene. That's not who she was. But she also wasn't going to sit in her kitchen and let sadness settle into her bones. She would go to that wedding, not for Thomas, not for Rachel, but for herself. She'd walk in with her head high, not as a guest, not even as the mother of the groom, but as Olivia Whitmore, a woman who loved deeply, stood tall, and refused to disappear quietly. The next morning, she called her best friend. "Loretta," she said, trying to sound calm, "do you have anything fabulous in your closet that says elegant but impossible to ignore?" There was a pause. Then Loretta, with her usual sparkle, said, "Sweetheart, come over. You're about to cause a beautiful little earthquake." And so began Operation Olivia. There were fabric swatches, heels that hadn't been worn since 1998, lipsticks tested and rejected, and laughter, the kind that had been missing for too long. "I'm not trying to steal the show," Olivia said as Loretta fastened a pearl necklace around her neck. "I just want to exist in the room where my son gets married." Loretta smiled in the mirror. "Oh, honey, you're not going to steal the show. You are the show." They just forgot the headline. That night, Olivia laid out her outfit carefully. A soft navy blue dress, timeless, graceful. A pair of silver earrings Thomas gave her years ago. And a small clutch that held tissues, mints, and just in case, a folded note she'd written weeks ago but never sent. She didn't know if she'd use it. But it felt right to bring her words with her. Just in case the day asked for truth. She looked in the mirror before bed, not searching for beauty, but for strength. And she saw it. In the lines around her eyes. In the way her shoulders didn't slump anymore. In the fire that had returned, quiet but steady. She was ready. Asterisk, asterisk. But Olivia had no idea what waited for her at that wedding. Old wounds. New faces. and a silent message that would speak louder than any speech. Asterisk, asterisk, the air smelled like roses and lavender. The vineyard, stretched in perfect rows, framed by white chairs, fairy lights, and expensive smiles. Olivia stepped out of Loretta's car, her heels clicking softly on the gravel. She didn't walk like someone crashing a party. She walked like someone who belonged, even if no one else remembered it. She wore navy blue. Not black for mourning. Not white to make a statement. Just navy blue. Quiet strength. Refined dignity. And eyes that had seen too much to be shaken. By side glances, guests turned. Some nodded politely. Others whispered. One woman leaned into another and asked, "Is that the groom's mother?" The other replied, "I thought that was Mrs. Johnson." Olivia smiled, not because it was funny, but because it was predictable. Loretta, always the life of the party, looped her arm through Olivia's. "You look like royalty," she whispered. "Like a duchess who's about to reclaim her castle." Olivia chuckled softly. "Let's just hope there's no dragon guarding the gate." Then she saw him, Thomas standing near the altar, adjusting his cufflinks. He looked handsome, nervous, focused. He didn't see her at first, but when he finally did, his entire posture shifted, not dramatically, not with a gasp, but with the tiniest falter, like his breath had forgotten how to move. Their eyes met. He didn't smile. She didn't wave, but for a brief second, there was something there. Not a welcome, not warmth. Just recognition. Rachel turned to see what had caught his attention. When she spotted Olivia, her jaw tightened, not out of fear, but discomfort. The kind of discomfort that comes when the person you erased shows up anyway. No one approached Olivia to greet her. No one offered her a seat. She stood off to the side. A guest. But not really. Loretta found 2 chairs near the back, beneath the shade of a blooming olive tree. "I always said you were an olive tree kind of woman," she said. "Deep roots, quiet fruit. But girl, your branches still reach far." The ceremony began. Vows were spoken, laughter and tears. Photos snapped. And through it all, Olivia remained still, present, composed, and deeply, unmistakably human. No one mentioned her. Not during the readings, not during the toasts, not even when Thomas thanked everyone who made today possible. But she wasn't waiting for acknowledgement. Not anymore. She was witnessing, not the marriage, but her own ability to show up, with grace when grace wasn't given. Asterisk, asterisk, but Olivia wasn't finished yet. She had brought something with her, not a gift, not a speech, just a single silent gesture. That would leave a mark no one could ignore. Asterisk. Asterisk, the reception was set under strings of golden lights, wrapped around wooden beams like soft halos, glass clinking, laughter floating, forks tapping on porcelain. It was beautiful, perfect even. But Olivia sat quietly in the shade of the olive tree, her plate mostly untouched. Not because the food was bad, but because everything tasted like absence. No one had introduced her. No one asked her to stand with the family. She wasn't mentioned in the speech before dinner, or the slideshow that showed baby photos of Thomas. Photos she had taken. Each skipped moment was like a thread being snipped, one by one. Across the table, Loretta watched her friend closely. She knew that silence better than anyone. It wasn't weakness. It was the final line before something needed to change. So she stood up, a fork in one hand, her wine glass in the other. She tapped gently. Clink, clink, clink. The room quieted. "Hi there," she said with her signature sparkle. "For those of you who don't know me, I'm Loretta, and I won't keep you long. I know the cake is calling." A few people chuckled. "But I'd like to raise a glass," she continued, her voice turning gentle, to someone who's not on the seating chart, not in the program, but who helped build the man we're all here to celebrate. A pause, a kind that makes hearts stop, to the mother who gave more than her name and never once asked to be repaid. To the woman who taught him to say, please, before Rachel ever taught him to say, I do. To the quiet hero in navy blue sitting beneath the olive tree, who showed up anyway. There was silence. Even the servers paused mid-step. Rachel looked stunned. Thomas looked down. And Olivia? She blinked once, then again, and simply nodded, just enough for Loretta to see it, to feel it. The toast wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it was enough. A ripple across still water, a stone laid where a name had been forgotten. People began glancing Olivia's way, not with pity, but with awareness. For the first time that day. She wasn't invisible. The rest of the evening blurred. Conversation swirled. The music picked up. The wine flowed. But something had shifted. Not on the outside, but deep within Olivia's heart. Because someone had said what she couldn't. Someone had seen what others chose to overlook. And that was more than enough. Asterisk. But just when Olivia thought she had found peace, she stepped away for a breath of air and found herself in the kitchen, where a quiet conversation would reveal a truth she never saw coming. Asterisk. The music was louder. Now, people were dancing, laughing, clinking glasses, but Olivia needed a moment. Just a breath of quiet. So she slipped away from the reception, weaving between servers and candlelit tables, and pushed open the side door that led into the kitchen. It smelled like butter and herbs and hot dishwater. Busy, loud, but not personal, which was perfect. She leaned gently against the wall near the back, out of the way. A moment just to herself. Need a glass of water? The voice was calm, kind. She turned and saw a young man in a white apron holding a pitcher and a plastic cup. Tall, maybe mid-20s, with tired eyes but a sincere smile. Please, she sighed, grateful. And thank you. He handed her the cup, then paused. You're Thomas's mom, right? Olivia blinked. It was the first time that day someone had said it out loud. Double quotes. Yes, she replied, slowly. I am. The young man smiled again, softer this time. I've worked here since I was 17. We do a lot of weddings. But this one's different. How so? Olivia asked, curious. He glanced around to make sure no one was listening, then lowered his voice. Well, it's not my place, but I overheard something earlier. Rachel's dad, the one paying for everything, he told the planner to keep things streamlined. He said, and I quote, we want everything to look perfect. Just immediate family. No loose ends. Olivia felt something tighten in her chest. Loose ends, she repeated, as if the words were foreign. Sharp, cold. The young man looked down, almost embarrassed. I'm sorry. That was rude of me to say? No, Olivia said, her voice steady. You were honest. And I appreciate that. She sipped the water slowly, thinking, letting it settle in. So that was it. Not an accident, not a mistake. A decision. The young man cleared his throat. I just thought you should know. People see you today. I did, even before the toast. He hesitated. You carry yourself like someone important. Olivia smiled, the first real smile of the day. Small, but real. Thank you, she said. I needed to hear that. He nodded, then turned back to the chaos of the kitchen. Pots clattered. Orders were shouted. Dishes steamed. But Olivia didn't hear any of it. She was still standing in the echo of that word. Loose ends. She closed her eyes for a moment. Let them think what they want, she thought. Let them plan their perfect world without me. Because today, I didn't come to be included. I came to be remembered. She stood up straighter, smoothed her dress, and stepped back into the noise of the celebration. Not smaller. Not ashamed, but with a new kind of power. The kind that doesn't beg for space. It creates it. Asterisk, asterisk, but the night wasn't over. Not yet, because Olivia had brought something with her. Something small, delicate, and silent. And before she left, she would leave it behind, exactly where it belonged. Asterisk, asterisk, 3 days passed. The wedding photos were probably already edited, filtered, and posted. The dress packed away. The flowers dried out, but Olivia still hadn't unpacked her clutch. It sat on the corner of the table, still holding the folded note she never gave, still smelling faintly of lavender and lemon drops. And then the phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. But something in her heart said, "Pick up, Mom." His voice cracked as it reached her ear. She didn't speak. Not yet. She wanted to hold that word a second longer. "Mom, I should have called sooner," he said. "I just didn't know what to say." Olivia closed her eyes. "You just said it," she whispered. And for a moment, they both said nothing at all. But in that silence, so much passed between them. "I saw you," Thomas continued. "At the ceremony, I saw you sitting under that olive tree." "I know," she replied. "I saw you too." "I didn't expect you to come," he said. Olivia paused, then replied softly, "I didn't come for permission. I came for the truth." There was a breath, then another. "I'm sorry, Mom," he said. "I should have spoken up. I should have made sure your name was there. I should have done so many things." Olivia sat down, her hand gently resting on the envelope that held the forgotten note. "You're not the only one who should have done something," she said. "I should have said something too, years ago." Thomas sniffed quietly on the other end of the line. I don't know. Rachel's family, they organize everything. They're intense, you know. And I didn't want to fight about the seating chart or the invite list. I thought," he stopped. "I thought you'd understand." She smiled gently. "I did understand," she said, "but it still hurt." There was no yelling, no guilt-tripping, no emotional blackmail, just two people, one who gave life, the other who was still learning how to honor it. "Mom," he said after a long pause, "I don't want this to be the last thing between us. Can I come by? Maybe this weekend?" Olivia's voice was calm, but warm. "I'd like that," she said. "There's lemon pie in the freezer. And you still owe me a chess rematch." Thomas laughed softly. "I still say you cheated that last game," she chuckled. "I let you win. You were 10 and dramatic. I was being merciful." The call ended not with closure, but with a crack in the wall. A light coming through. No guarantees. No big emotional finish. Just something new. Possibility. And Olivia? She didn't need more than that. Not anymore. Asterisk, asterisk, that night, Olivia sat at her table, unfolded the note she never gave, and read it aloud. Not for him, but for herself. Because some things are meant to be heard, even if only once, even if only by your own heart. Asterisk, asterisk, the house was quiet. Not the kind of quiet that comes from peace, but the kind that feels like something is holding its breath. Olivia sat at her small wooden table, a cup of tea growing cold beside her, as she reached into her clutch and pulled out the folded letter. The one she wrote before the wedding. The one she never gave. The paper was worn now, creased, soft at the corners, but the ink was still clear. The words still hers. She unfolded it slowly, laid her hand over the first line, and began to read. "Dear Thomas, if you're reading this, it means I found the courage to give it to you. But if you never see it, then maybe I just needed to write it for me." She paused, took a breath, and read aloud again, softly to the empty room. And to her own soul, I raised you with everything I had, not just food and clothes and school supplies, but with the hope that you'd never forget where you came from. I never expected perfection. I knew there would be distance, seasons, where life pulled you in other directions. But I never thought I'd be erased. Her voice trembled, but she kept reading, each word a thread, gently weaving together the pieces of herself she'd left behind. The day I received the wedding invitation, I didn't cry. I just stood still, because that's what pain does sometimes. It freezes you before it breaks. I wasn't angry, Thomas. I was invisible. And that's something I never imagined feeling in your story. Tears gathered at the edge of her lashes, but she let them fall without apology. But even in that pain, I remembered who I am. I'm your mother. I am the woman who stayed up through fevers, heartbreaks, and spelling tests. I am the woman who prayed over your name when I didn't know where you were. And I am still here, not because you remembered me, but because I never stopped remembering you. She rested her hand on the final lines, the ones she had rewritten twice. I forgive you, not because you asked, but because my love for you is not a contract. It's a vow I made the moment I held you. And no wedding, no seating chart, no silence can change that. She folded the letter gently, placed it back inside the envelope, and then into the old box where she kept other memories. First teeth, baby socks. A drawing that once said, "I love Mom this much." With two shaky stick arms. Olivia smiled through the tears, not because she felt healed, but because she had spoken the truth out loud. And sometimes that's how healing begins. She stood, walked to the kitchen, and poured herself a fresh cup of tea, the kind of act that says, I may not be part of their beginning, but I am still the author of my own middle, and maybe even her next chapter. Asterisk, asterisk, but before the story ends, Thomas will return to the house where he was raised, and Olivia will open the door, not to the boy she once knew, but to the man who finally came home. Asterisk, asterisk, it was a Sunday, the kind with soft light filtering through lace curtains, and the smell of something baking, even if no one was really hungry. Olivia was in the garden, pruning her roses, talking softly to them like old friends. She didn't hear the car at first, didn't see the door open, but she felt it. A presence, a hesitation, then a knock on the gate. She turned. Thomas stood there, hands in his pockets, uncertain and older than she remembered, not just in age, but in soul. He looked like someone who'd been carrying a weight and had finally decided to put it down. I brought something, he said, holding up a paper bag. I hope it's lemon pie, Olivia answered, teasing gently. I heard you still owe me a rematch. He smiled, truly this time. It wasn't just guilt. It was gratefulness. They sat at the kitchen table like old times. The silence wasn't awkward anymore. It was peaceful, like two people who no longer needed to pretend, because truth had already spoken. I found a copy of the seating chart, Thomas said eventually. It hurt to see it, not because your name was missing, but because I let it happen. Olivia placed her hand over his. I know, she said. I forgave you before you even realized you needed it. They didn't talk about the toast, or Rachel's father, or the olive tree. What mattered was the moment, the now, the son who came back, the mother who opened the door anyway. As Thomas got up to leave, he hesitated again. There's something I didn't say, he began. Olivia tilted her head. He pulled something from his jacket. An envelope, plain white, no gold embossing, no calligraphy. Just a single line, for Olivia Whitmore. I had this made, he said, a real one, with your name "And your title?" He looked into her eyes. "Mother of the groom." She took it in her hands. Not to read, not to fix the past, but to honor it. "Thank you," she whispered. And they hugged, not like people making peace, but like people remembering love. After he left, Olivia placed the envelope in her memory box, right next to the letter she never gave, and the photo of Thomas holding his baby bottle with two chubby hands. Later that week, at the park, Olivia sat beside a woman on a bench. The woman was crying quietly. "My daughter got married last year," she said. "I wasn't invited. I thought I'd be okay, but I'm not." Olivia listened, then smiled gently Dot and said, "I once got a wedding invitation that didn't have my name on it, but I showed up anyway." The woman looked at her, surprised. "What happened?" Olivia paused, then said, "I learned something. No envelope can ever teach. Love doesn't need to be printed to be real, and presence doesn't need permission." She reached into her purse and handed the woman a folded napkin. Not a tissue, just something soft, Dot, because sometimes softness is the strongest thing we can offer. And with that, Olivia stood, adjusted her shawl, and walked away beneath the golden leaves. A woman who wasn't just invited back into her son's life, but who rewrote the meaning of what it means to belong. Asterisk, asterisk, some wounds don't disappear. They don't need to. They become part of the map that leads us to forgiveness, resilience, and emotional healing. This wasn't a story about weddings, Dot. It was a story about being seen by others and by ourselves. Asterisk, asterisk. Before we go, let's take a moment to breathe in the quiet truth this story left us, Dot. Sometimes the people who deserve a front row seat in our lives end up standing in the back, not because they don't love us, but because we forget how much space they once made for us to grow. And yet, the ones who love us the most often show up anyway, Dot, with grace, Dot, with quiet strength, Dot, with presence that doesn't need a name tag. Forgiveness isn't always a grand speech, Dot. Sometimes it's a lemon pie in the freezer, or a folded letter that never had to be read to be heard, Dot. So if today's story touched something inside you, if it reminded you of someone you miss, someone you've forgiven, or someone you need to forgive, don't let the moment pass. Leave us a comment and tell us what part of Olivia's journey spoke to your heart. And please, share this story with someone who needs to be reminded you can still show up even if you weren't invited. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to receive more real-life stories like this one. Stories of healing, redemption, and a whole lot of humanity, Dot. And yes, if you enjoyed this, hit that like button. It helps us reach more people. More hearts, Dot. Until next time, friends, be kind to your story. And to the people who quietly carried you through it, we'll see you in the next one.